Добро утро. Во нашата утринска тема на овој 13 октомври го најавувам Меѓународниот ден за намалување на ризиците од катастрофи. И тоа во период, во години, би рекол, кога катастрофите стануваат се почести и за жал се поразорни. Мојот утрински соговорник на оваа тема е експерт токму во таа област. Со задоволство ви го најавувам, почитувани, Армен Григоријан, постојаниот представник на програмата за развој на Обединетите нации во Македонија. Амбасадоре, добро утро, добре дојавте во студиото на Тема.
Добро утро.
Ово годинешното мото на одбележувањето на Меѓународниот ден е борба против нееднаквоста за отпорна иднина. Каква е врската на нееднаквоста со природните катастрофи кои, како што кажа во најавата, за жал се почести и постраотни?
I think over 90% of disasters that are on the record are related to climate. On the other side, we have disproportionately affected group of population from disasters, which are normally the most vulnerable groups. And inequality is something that drives the vulnerability of these people. Last year, the total economic loss from disasters globally was more than 300 billion United States dollars. What in the Western world, what the governments are doing, they are insuring, including the most vulnerable groups against the disasters. But the insured amount of losses last year was 130 billion, which gives us around 180 billion globally protection gap, which is the people that are not insured against disasters. And normally these are the most vulnerable, poor people. And this is why I think this year the International Day of Disaster Risk Reduction is focusing on equality and inequality and how different vulnerable groups are affected by disasters. If you allow me, I'll just bring several examples, that are very close to us, to North Macedonia, of disasters this year. We have our neighboring country, Greece, where they had forest fires, then they had floods, and these are different types of disasters, but also related to changing climate. It's too hot, and then it's too cold. Extreme weathers will be increasingly more and more affecting us. It will be too much water, too little water, too hot, too cold. Most of these issues will, of course, be discussed at the Conference of Parties, COP28 for climate, that will be gathering this year in Dubai at the end of November, beginning of December. North Macedonia is participating in this event. We are working with various parts of the government and civil society who will be representing North Macedonia there. I think the shift that we are expecting in order to address inequalities in disaster risk management is one shift is from moving from disaster management to disaster risk management, because risk is the main component that we would like to address and to tackle. Second, I think, is more attention needs to be put to prevention and foresight, basically to understand how we can reduce the potential negative impact of disasters and try and foresee, try and develop scenarios, how the poor people, how the vulnerable people will be affected. One of the ways to address this is nature-based sustainable solutions that can be incorporated in preventive measures at the design stage. Finally, I would like to say that the global framework for disaster risk reduction, Sendai Global Framework, which was adopted in 2015, and North Macedonia is part of it. North Macedonia has very strong commitments to both the Paris Agreement and to the Sendai Framework. In 2023, International Day will also explore the possibility of improving the living conditions of all people, affected or not affected by disasters.
Господине Григоријан, спомнавте и сам стотици милиони милиарди долари штета, ги спомнавте пожарите и поплавите во Грција, меѓутоа не само во Грција. Сведоци бевме на разорни невремиња и во Словенија. Грција изгоре од пожари, меѓутоа гореше и се уште гори и Македонија. Не е повеќе привилегија овие разорни урагани само некаде по телевизија да ги гледаме, дека некаде далеку се случуваат, туку ни дојдоа и тука. сите знаат или насетуваат дека главна причина за тоа се климатските промени, меѓутоа како да отсуствува сериозна акција. Сите знаат и што треба да се преземе, меѓутоа не се презема ништо или се презема малку. Од самит на самит во очекување сме некако. Зошто Обединетите нации не преземат посериозни? Што може да очекуваме од самитот во Дубај сега, кој го споменавте?
I think I can understand frustration that some people might have, from summit to summit. However, there is a lot of work that is being done between the summits. For example, when the Sendai framework for disaster risk reduction was adopted in 2015, one of the major initiatives that UNDP started in North Macedonia here was the flood prevention program in the Polok region. It's a major initiative. It is funded by Swiss government and UNDP. We also have contribution from the central government in North Macedonia, as well as from 9 municipalities where we work. The program looks at 2 components. First component is the structural mitigation, protecting people who live in those areas from potential floods, flash floods, mud flows, and landslides. And currently we are operating at 15 construction sites. And the second component, what is called the soft component, where we are working with 9 municipalities on creating an intermunicipal cooperation council to address disaster risks, because these risks are going from one community, from one municipality to another, and in some cases municipalities do not have enough capacity to address it without external support. So bringing together 9 municipalities is also sharing cost. But this initiative started after the devastating floods that took place in that region with unfortunate loss of lives. So this is one of the examples how between the summits, between the global forums, the actual practical work is taking place on the ground. And UNDP is we are a global player in disaster risk reduction, and here in North Macedonia we are also contributing our knowledge, our global experience and expertise to addressing the issues of disaster risk. I think what in this particular project, but also in all our the interventions we're doing, we are bringing the global scientific data, we are bringing the global expertise. The project is complex, it's not an easy project to implement, but we are very happy with the progress that we have. We have 1 more year to go. The project will end at the end of the next year, and I think some of the achievements are very clear, and you can see it by visiting these communities.
Го спомнавте вашиот ангажман во Полошкиот регион кој е подложен на поплави и тоа е конкретна акција. Јас повеќе мислев во прашањето глобално што се случува од самит на самит, меѓутоа кога веќе го спомнавте проектот на програмата за развој на Обединетите нации во Македонија, би сакал тука да ги замолам колегите од режијата да пуштат дел од филмот кој трае 15 на минути, ќе видиме само куси извадок од него за да имате појасна представа за што станува збор, почитувани.
Полок, регион на импозантни планини и живописни природни предели. Регион од кој извира најголемата река Вардар, но и предел од 1479 квадратни километри во кој е сконцентриран голем воден потенцијал, извори, отоци, реки, водопади, езера. Убавина која го одзема здивот, предизвик за секој посетител во секое годишно време. Но климатските промени и човекот често ја нарушуваат оваа убавина. Целиот Полошки регион се соочува со зголемен ризик од поплави, поради планинската топографија на областа, густата хидрографска мрежа, но пред се, поради човечкиот фактор и неговото негативно влијание врз животната средина, од обешумувањето па се до инфраструктурните и енергетските зафати. За разлика од поплавите што ги погодуваат другите региони, поројните поплави кои редовно го погодуваат Полок се случуваат практично без предупредување. Потенцијалот за катастрофи од овој вид сигурно се зголемува уште повеќе заради климатските промени кои ја зголемуваат фреквенцијата на екстремни временски настани, вклучително и поројните врнежи. Според сателитските и теренски снимања во последните години, годишно исчезнува повеќе од 7% од шумската прекривка во горен полог. Дивата сеча е најголемиот виновник за соголување на шумите. Доколку се продолжи со таа динамика, се проценува дека за 14 години целосно ќе ја снема шумската прекривка во регионот.
Да, доколку се продолжи со таа динамика, господине Григоријан, во 2038 година целосно гола без шума ќе биде полошкиот регион. Што друго треба и мораме итно да преземеме за да не се случи тоа? Што презема програмата за развој на
As I
Обединетите
mentioned, Polog is not the only intervention of UNDP country office here in North Macedonia. Our activities are not limited to this particular type of intervention and to this region only. 18 municipalities throughout North Macedonia received support from UNDP on rescue equipment and rescue training. And this is specialized rescue training in various environments, such as water rescue, mountain rescue, urban rescue. In cooperation with Department of Protection and Rescue, we have initiated the process of membership of the National Rescue Team of North Macedonia in INSARAC. INSARAC is an international search and rescue advisory group which is managed by United Nations, and it provides for certification of the national rescue teams for international rescue activities. It's a long process, but we believe that our partners in government are committed, and we are going through this process together. Another example that I would like to share with you is transboundary cooperation on climate-related risks. And this cooperation is on Drin River Basin, which brings together not only North Macedonia, but also Albania and Montenegro. It's a regional initiative of UNDP. I think in addition to ensuring that this region is not affected by floods and mud flows, one important component there is that this river goes into Lake Ohrid, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. And we don't want Lake Ohrid to be polluted from whatever comes from the river. So we are cleaning riverbeds. We are, improving the ecosystem in Drin River within this project. Perhaps next that I would like to share with you is the air pollution project that UNDP is implementing. We just completed the first phase, which was focused on the city of Skopje, where we addressed more than 130 households on internal and external pollution. Air pollution can also be indoor pollution. And now we have expanded our work to 5 other municipalities. These are the municipalities of Gostivar, Struga, Strumica, Kavadarci, and Kumanovo. We will be working with the laboratory called Ambicon from the University of Goce Delchev in Štip to identify the sources of pollution. Indoor pollution and outdoor pollution. This will be the main source of information for us to create action plans. How do we address the air pollution in these 5 additional municipalities? Finally, monitoring within this project, monitoring of indoor air pollution is important for us, and we are focusing on some schools and kindergartens, because for children in the age of their maturity, it is very important that they have clean air, clean water. And in some schools where we did the measurements, there is a room for improvement. So we are also tackling this problem through the lens of addressing it through kindergartens and schools.
Да, навистина многу активности, бидејќи видовме и од претходното ваше излагање и од она што секојдневно се случува, дека отпорни на природни катастрофи нема и дека сите се во ризик без оглед на стабилноста и развојот на државите. Ги спомнавме поплавите, пожарите, невремињата, го спомнавте и загадувањето. Не спомнавме ништо за земјотресите, кои се исто така во последнава година барем се случија повеќе разорни, оној февруарскиот во Турција, па овие сега во Мароко, еве и во Авганистан последниве денови. Годинава Скопје одбележа годишнина округла од катастрофата во 1963 година. А во првиот разговор пред 2 години ми кажавте дека и вашата љубов кон оваа професија, односно се определивте за експерт за справување со катастрофи, кога сте волонтирале во разорниот земјотрес во Ерменија во 1988 година. Што Македонија треба да преземе на овој план е прашањето?
Well, this year UNDP country office has played an important coordinating role in bringing together various stakeholders from government, from civil society, from international community, from private sector to mark the 60 years of the Skopje earthquake. 60 years ago, after the earthquake, UNDP was mandated by United Nations General Assembly to coordinate the reconstruction effort after the Skopje earthquake. And we are very proud that now, 60 years later, UNDP is also coordinating the efforts of all stakeholders to mark the 60 years of the earthquake, but also, improve and increase the attention towards this issue, not only to the earthquake itself, but to preparedness towards the earthquakes. We have organized a number of coordination meetings. In May, we hosted with the government jointly a high-level global conference on urban resilience and urban risks. In our work, I think it is important that we partner with President Pendarovski, with Prime Minister, with Minister of Local Self-Governments, of course, with the Mayor of Skopje, with the Macedonian Red Cross, with ISIS, with a number of other institutions. We work closely with them to identify what else can be done, because Skopje is located in the seismic active zone, whether we like it or not. There will be earthquakes sooner or later in the seismic active zones, like you mentioned it, like we witnessed earlier this year in Turkey, and Syria. One of the things that I would like to highlight is that we produced a study with 13 scientists here in North Macedonia on solidarity. What solidarity meant for the survivors of people of Skopje 60 years ago, and how Skopje paid back solidarity to the world, which came together 60 years ago to help the survivors of the earthquake. It's a very interesting study. We co-launched and co-authored it with the Office of the President Pendarovski. I think some of our authors are very young. They are kids, school children from Skopje, who have a very specific perspective of the country they want to live in the future. Finally, I would like to mention that during the General Assembly of United Nations in September this year in New York, President Pendarovski awarded the United Nations Secretary General with the highest honor of Republic of North Macedonia as a sign of appreciation for the work United Nations, UNDP, are doing on 60 years ago on coordinating the reconstruction of Skopje, and this year on coordinating the efforts to mark the 60 years of Skopje earthquake.
Господин Григоријан, ви благодарам многу за разговорот. Посакувам да имате многу повеќе работа во однос на превенција од катастрофите, а многу помалку од решавање на последиците од таквите случувања.
Ви благодарам.